Welcome everyone. Today we'll have a special guide for Dota Underlord. This is a advanced strategy guide for the losing streak or open fort. Basically, we'll be forcing losing streak, and the core concept behind this strategy is that with the free roll system, we can't really guarantee a win streak because someone will get a loss and then they find a 2-star because of the free roll. So it's easier for us to secure a losing streak forcefully with having less units and weaker units on board. This will give us both an economic advantage and also the mid-game advantage. With economic advantage, we'll get 2+ gold after 5 consecutive losses. The 2 gold worth of free roll will also be economically advantageous, and also it will give us a stronger mid-game as we find more of the 2-star and 3-star with the free roll. The catch, of course, is that we'll lose up to 2 to 6 HP per round in early rounds before round 10, and if you consider this is better than losing 10+ HP in a mid-game because you have a solid mid-game. So we're kind of hedging a risk by spending the resource with HP. So definitely excited to share this with you guys, and we have made it to top 4 80% of the time with this losing streak. But there's one thing to notice. This is more of an advanced strategy because it takes practice to force losing streak, because sometimes we want to lose a little less and we want to have this kind of units was like, how do I lose? So you want to double check the enemy board to see if anyone else is running a losing streak and if you are the weakest player in the particular game. There's 7 other players, and if you're not the weakest, you're always susceptible to a chance of you accidentally winning and losing your hard-earned streaks. On top of that, if someone else is also running a losing streak, you want to be weaker than him. You might have all of your units taken back to the bench and he might do the same. And if that happens, you meet each other, you'll get a draw. And this will kind of deny the losing streak. You'll lose all your streaks of winning and losing when you get a draw. So that is the only downside when you meet another player that runs the exact strategy. So it is advisable to practice this a few times with the bots and maybe casual games before testing in a ranked game. Because the factor is we're losing HP. Sometimes we lose a lot of HP. Then we have to be dynamic of how we spend and how early do we spend to lock in HP before it falls below 40%. We're happy to lose HP up to 60. Then we try to come back between 60 and 40. Then we stop losing the HP around 40 or 50. That'll be perfect. To start things off, there are 2 types of streaks in this game. The first type of streak is a win streak for a consecutive win versus another player. Notice this is not for PvP. Notice this is not for PvE. So the number of wins needed to get a streak is 3, 5, 7, 8, which respectively we get 1, 2, 3, 4 gold. And notice this win streak does reset after 8 wins, which is a good mechanism, because if someone's winning, you don't want them to also just snowball away. So because of this, they don't win too hard after 8 wins. So they will need another 3 consecutive wins to start the 1+ gold again. On the other side, with a losing streak, for each of the consecutive loss versus another player, we have 3 losses and 5 losses, and we get 1 gold and 2 gold. This does seems to be a little lower to the win streak, but this does not reset. So you can lose as much as you can. Only catch is you'll eventually run out of HP because you're actually losing HP each time you lose. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 4 builds that can use the losing streak. I'll go in a bit of the detail with this build's logic and idea, but firstly let's consider how does losing streak work. So we'll go through the Savage build in more detail as the losing streak example. We have a few core units for the Savage build, which are all tier 1 units, most of them, and tier 3 Lycan. So when we're losing in the early game, we will be lower leveled with high rates of tier 1 units. This is perfect for us to start rerolling, and we'll be rolling for Venal, Tusk, and Enchantress. There are a few option ones we can look for. Because you're rolling a lot, you might as well pick up a few good units for your build. Why would I consider the Hunters is with 4 from Grace, we can go into Joy Ranger and Lycan. I'll consider the Druids with a Summoning Stone, and I might use the Druids early as I find Enchantress as 2-star. Later I can swap them out for the Dome Druid. Unless I have Summoning Stone, I'm not likely to go into the 4 Druids. Whereas it's always optional. We can start with a 2-star Tiny because we're free rolling with the losing streak, and Tiny is also a tier 1 unit. We can also build on top of Tiny with maybe a Pudge and Joranger for hardness, or maybe we can look into purple warriors later, like Conquer, Tidehunter, and Doom, etc. Of course, we have a Venomancer, so we can also consider picking up a Witch Doctor. This in the late game can take us into warriors with Tusk, Tiny, or like Conquer, Tide with a Troll Warlock. So Witch Doctor is not bad. We can also pick up other Warlocks as well, like Necromancer, Disruptor, Alchemist. There's one thing about the losing streak is that before round 7, we want to maximize how much income we earn from interest. That means we want to get 10 gold, 20 gold, 30 gold as much as we can without selling the core units. We can afford to lose a few of the optional ones because those are not going to be game changer unless we fully want to commit to a build. So we want to focus on maximizing income before round 7 because we want to be faster in reaching 50 gold, in leveling or rerolling before everybody else. This is our advantage, and if we miss this advantage, we'll lose HP and timing. So it's very crucial for us to consider just be a little greedy with saving. And also this comes back to the fact we're greedy with saving, we have a weak team, and we lose forcefully. We'll be looking at the leveling and rerolling timing. For different builds, some of the builds will use the surplus gold over 50 to be leveling up, other builds want to find 3 stars early. So for our particular Savage build, we'll want 3 stars over additional alliance. To get additional alliance, we usually want to level up. So for the Savage, I favor getting 3-star Lycan, 3-star Druids, and maybe 3-star Joranger, etc. Then we look towards the additional alliance after finding the 3 stars. So we can go to level 7 and round 17, and we can even go earlier. Sometimes I reach level 7 and round 13, just because we have so much gold. It is optional to go to level 8 at round 21 or 26. There's no rush, we can start rolling at level 6, 7 or 8. Ideally you want to roll at 6 and 7, because most of the Druid units do not require an Ace unit, which is a tier 5 unit. So we'll be rolling at level 6 for higher rates for the tier 1s, rolling at level 7 for higher rates of Long Druid. We can balance this out ourselves. Keep in mind, being on level 7 does give us additional unit, so this will protect HP a little more. The alliance specific tips is that Summoning Stone is really favorable by the Savages. We can even force a lose on the PvE runs, which are 15, 20 and 25, which gives the highest chance of tier 2 unit. Because round 10 gives the highest tier 2 unit rate, by losing those rounds we jump 1 back. So 15 becomes 10, 20 becomes 15 and 25 becomes 20. For me, if I don't get Summoning Stone or if I get Summoning Stone, I can also consider the Forefront Grace for the Savage Hunters. The Aegis is a pretty good above average tier 2 item. As we're forcefully losing, we can pick up Aegis because in the later stage of the game, I've seen players who used to be coming top 5 and end up with top 2 positioning just because they had Aegis. 3 players died on the same run and he survived. So this is a pretty crucial item if you want to climb up ranking. The build around our 3-star Savages. If I have a 3-star Lycan, I want to boost him with Hunters, or maybe just with more Savages. With a Tusk, we want Warriors with him. With Venomancer, probably want Warlocks and Summoning Stone. So, Superwire says, why 15? Round 15, if you forcefully lose on round 15, you will get round 10 rates, which is the 80% for tier 2 rates. But round 15 only gives 70% for tier 2 rates. Of course, this gives a little higher for tier 3, but it's a trade-off. Usually, I'm okay with winning on 15, but if I really want Summoning Stone, I'll still try to lose on it. We'll touch briefly on the next 3 builds, which are Mages, Knights, and also Warriors. The concept of a losing streak is quite standard. We can use this with most of the builds. We can see right away the Savages does benefit a lot because some of the core units are early game units that can be found with the free rolls. But with Mages, there's less early game units to be found. We can find Crystal Maiden, Lena and Puck, but they're not the game changers. So Mages actually use the economy more than free roll in this case. Because we use the economy, Mages actually enjoy of having more of alliance than 3-star. Most of the time as you find 6 Mages, you find Primordials, you might get Scaled, you might get the humans. So Mages really want to expand their roster. We have a few optional units. If we're going for 6 Mage, we can go with Razor Ogre. If we're going for Primordials, we take out the Primordials. If we're going for Assassins, those are pretty decent. If we want Warlocks, Shadowfiend and Witch Doctor are still the best early game. Early game take us to round 15 and we can switch those for other things later. Of course, we can go with the Scrappy and Inventors, which are also optional. Notice those kind of pickup will usually ideally we pick those up after round 7 as we max out economy. As we mentioned earlier, mages want to use the surplus gold to level up to expand the rooster. I'll be going to level 7 or 8 on round 17 and level 8 or 9 on round 21. This means we can aggressive level up and we'll want additional units which does more damage. We can also be rolling at level 9 for Keeper of the Light, for some maybe a Conquer, maybe a Dragon Knight, also for the Lich. So this is pretty important as we prioritize on finding 2 stars and additional allies. Notice 3 stars are nice, 3-star Morphling or maybe a 3-star Lina, but those are like special cases. Because we know how strong mages are with humans. They can be defensive with scale, they could be regenerative with warlocks, and they can also hex us with shamans. So mages love more alliance. Definitely start rolling at level 9 and you can feel the difference. And this is when mages come back. Unlike the savages that comes back with 3 stars, mages come back with just being 1 step ahead of you and just wiping your whole board with a massive damage AoE. Maybe a Keep Up the Light, or maybe with a Morphling or Shadowfiend. With the mages, what I find most is that mages want AoE damage, and most of the mage is like the alliance activator. They amplify the magical damage, but you want units which are Morphling, Shadowfiend that does great AoE damage, and you can build around them because mages do lose HP in the early game. We want to roll at higher levels for tier 4 units and ace units. For the late game, mages wants to consider having the scaled against fellow mages. Having Arc Warden and Enigma will be great against physical lineups, even countering a 3-star Slark or 3-star Terrorblade, because once they become a chicken, that's 4 seconds out of the way, and that's how they time to pretty much do anything. And of course, the versatile team is with the Warlocks. You can sustain, you can control the enemy, but the Disruptor is the ace, and it's quite rare to find it as most builds also want him. After seeing a build that wants 3-star and a build want additional alliance, we're balanced with a Knight build. Knights have a few of the basic core units along the way of tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. So Knights is the ideal mid-game team. We have optional units like Witch Doctor, Shadow Shaman for the trolls, which is rare, very rare by the way. We can pick up those good early game units like Tiny, Anti-Mage, Ogre Magi. We use them for the early to mid-game transition, before we find all the 2-star Knights, before we find all the alliance, and they can be sold for the full price. Now with the Knights. Knights are flexible. Knights want 3 stars, Knights want alliance. I like Knights because I can be dynamic with the game. If there's lots of people playing Knights, I will be leveling up. If there's lots of people not playing Knights, I'll be rolling for my 3 stars. So with the surplus gold, 7 and 8 is pretty standard. We'll be prioritizing on finding 2 stars and additional alliance first. Once we find those, we'll look into the battlefield. We'll see how many Knights are there and what's likely to happen. If there's more Knights in the game, like 2 or 3 Knights, it's not likely we'll find all the 3 stars and we might just be trapped in level 7 or level 8. So it's better to go to level 8 or level 9 and start rolling for the additional alliance. Maybe Warlocks, maybe more Heartless, maybe more Dragons. But if it is uncontested with the Knights, we definitely want to start rolling at level 8. Level 7 is nice, but we want to keep additional alliance. Level 8 gives us the majority of alliance. We can be on 4 of the Knights with the Dragons and Heartless, and maybe even Warlocks. We can be on 6 Knights with Heartless and Warlock. So there's a lot of alliance with level 8. And Knights do want the tier 4 unit traits like Dragon Knight, the Necromancer, which is the Necrophos, and we can even pick up other units that comes with it as well. Maybe a Disruptor, maybe a Troll Warlord. So rolling on level 8 is pretty crucial for 3-star Knights, and this will protect HP as well as we find them to 3-star. With alliance specific tips with Knights. We really want to add Heartless and Warlock whenever possible when we have most of the 2-star Knights, because the Knights can really sustain themselves with additional healing, and Knights does most of the physical damage. And as we mentioned earlier, we want to be dynamic. So we are on low HP and there's many other knights. We can be leveling up for 2-star Dragon Knight additional alliance. But as we mentioned earlier, we want to stay on level 8 to roll for at least 1 to 3 3-star knights. We prioritize on the Chaos Knight and Luna because they're cheap, effective, and very powerful. Lastly, we have the warriors. Warriors are big everywhere and they're super powerful, and they seem to be on top of the meta because they're versatile. We have the warriors with scaled, warriors with warlock, warriors with hunters, just you name it, anything you could go with warriors, because they also got a buff with 6 warriors. Now the core units for warriors, we did mention all the warriors, Venomous and Witch Doctor. This is because we're using a free roll, but there's no need to keep all those warriors to 3-star. We're just here to get them to 2-star and use them for the mid game. We can pick up 3 warriors or 6 warriors depending on the lineup. Usually I'll go with elite warriors, maybe the Doom, Conquer, Tide, and pick up other warriors just for 6 warriors. Other times I just have 3 or 4 warriors and the rest of the team will be 4 warlocks and maybe other things. Maybe a Slug for the scaled and also damage, maybe a Demon Hunter with Terrorblade and Anti-Mage. So here we set optional units as Shadowfiend. We can go to 4 warlocks with him. Jorringer for the initial Heartless. The Lycan and Beastmaster, one of them gives Savage with Tusk, the other one gives Brownie with the Axe or maybe Juggernaut. But there's no need to dive deeply into this one. This is more like an early game. I don't lose too much HP because of this strategy, but it is not very strong in the late game with warriors. We mentioned about the Demon Hunters. Terrorblade plus Anti-Mage means this source of damage. With Warlock and Heartless, we can have a pretty good lineup, but the downside is we're majority melee units, and mages really do punish us. That's why we can think of the scaled. We can have Slug as the initial scaled with Slaughter. Later we can go into 4 scaled because of more mages, or we can go 2 scaled for the best 2 scaled. We can have Tide and Slug. Even Tide, Medusa and Slug is okay. If we have a 3-star Slaughter, we can have 4 scaled. Or we can just have Slaughter and Tide for the initial 2 scaled warriors and build damage from maybe a Terrorblade, maybe a Troll Warlord. Oh, let's see. The timing for warriors, surprisingly, we don't need too many 3-star warriors. And this was tested in many of my mid games with the Lord games. Lots of the warrior players do counter the knights, they do counter assassins. And how they work is they find 2-star purple warriors, which are like Conquer, Doom, which hits very hard or does a lot of things. Or maybe 2-star Tide Hunter. Those are very scary things. For me, it's optional to go to 7 or 8 round 17, optional for 8 or 9 round 21. Because we aggressively level up, we have high rates for tier 4 and tier 5 units. We'll prioritize on finding 2-stars and alliance. This is very similar to Mage, but this is more tailored against the enemy players. If I see a lot of Scrappies, actually Scrappy is an interesting one. Scrappy we need like maybe Warlock or maybe a bit of the range units because they explode in the warriors. If it's a Mage, we want more scaled. If it's Assassin or Hunters or Knights, we want more warriors. So we can adjust warriors accordingly to them. For the alliance tips for the warriors are solid with most builds, against most builds. And the key is to find the higher tier warriors and also Troll Warlord maybe before round 26. If we don't find high tier warriors, what's going to happen is we'll be stuck on the lower tier warriors, maybe Axe, maybe Tusk, maybe even Juggernaut. Those warriors are great at 3-star, but it's too costly to find them at 3-star. Want to be flexible, because adjusting a build is what makes warriors super special. Of course, we can go into a utility build with Warlocks, Heartless, Scaled, and maybe Hunters and Demons. Those are okay, but ideally we look for the 2 types of matchups, a physical matchup and a magical. Usually I have 2 Scaled just with a Slaughter, with anything else, and we want to build on top of our units. If you are tanky enough, you want Warlocks to sustain ourselves and later transition to Disruptor for AoE control. But if we are not tanky enough, we have too much damage because of Slug and Demon Hunters, we can have more of the warriors. Overall, this is an old school strategy from Dota Auto Chess, which was very popular at the times with elves or elusives back then. But as games evolve, as things change, I really found a niche area with the free rolls. Because of the free roll system with Underlord, it favors the full solution streak so much more. And I believe if we practice this more with any of the builds, we can really be, benefiting from this. Because at times we might not have the best luck with, good units. This is when, like, as humans, we have controls over things, and the more control we have, the more we reduces RNG and we increase our chance of coming top 4 and having a good game. So I've made comebacks by finding 3-star slug. I've made comebacks by, rolling in level 10 for 2-star lich. Very fun strategy. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And I'll be making more of the advanced strategies in the future. I'll look into maybe unit choices in the early game, positioning and alliance choices in the mid game, and late game positioning and stunners choices. So I'm super excited for that, and we'll be making more guides on Reddit as well. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So if you like our guides, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also follow and subscribe to Twitch if you can to support me on Twitch. That'd be wonderful, and I'll look forward to the October with 6 new heroes and 3 new alliances in October, and also Dungeon Crawlers and Underlords. Super excited, guys.